Hey there. Thanks for joining us for Tales of Misadventure, a podcast all about business blunders. On this podcast, Nicole Donnelly, founder of DMG Digital, talks to entrepreneurs and learns how they turn their lemons into lemonade. DMG Digital is a content marketing agency focused on helping manufacturers attract new buyers through digital self-serve. Nicole Donnelly is a fourth-generation entrepreneur, a girl mom, and an avid traveler. Now, let's head into a tale of misadventure with your host, Nicole Donnelly.
Hello, and welcome to Tales of Misadventure. I'm Nicole Donnelly, your host with DMG Digital, and I'm joined by Wendy Covey. She's the founder and president of TREW Marketing. And I am so excited to have you on the show today. Wendy, welcome.
Thank you so much for having me. This is going to be a fun time. Can't wait.
Yes, and it is such an honor to have another female entrepreneur on the show. I'm so excited. I have so much respect and admiration for you and what you've built at TREW. I just look up to you as just a tremendous mentor, and I loved meeting you at the Industrial Marketing Summit last fall, and you did such an amazing job there. I learned so much from you. So I'm just so excited to just learn from all of your experience and nuggets of wisdom. And you've been a business owner now for what, 15 years? Is that right?
15 years. Yeah, this is our anniversary.
Oh my gosh, that's a big one. That is such a huge milestone. I think they say only 80% of businesses, not only, but something like only 20% of businesses make it past that first 5 years, and you've made it to 15. So that is pretty remarkable. So I want to give our listeners just a quick overview of your past experience. So you are a CEO, a technical marketing leader, author of Content Marketing Engineered, and one of the Wall Street Journal's 10 most innovative entrepreneurs in America. That's amazing.
Thank you.
I'm so excited to learn about this. You hold a Texas fishing record. So
there you go. I mean, you could have just started with that, really.
Pretty cool. I'm super intrigued to learn more about that. So tell me more. Tell me more about that fishing record, first of all.
Well, okay. Any excuse to talk about fishing.
Yeah.
No, it's a funny story, I guess. I grew up in a family where my dad and my brother loved to fish on this lake where my grandparents lived. And it was so boring. Like if it didn't involve boys or malls or something like that, I was not into it as a teenager. But fast forward into my adulthood, and my husband was big into fishing, and he was like, no, you need to try saltwater fishing. And so we went out, and what's neat about fishing in the Bay is, unlike lake fishing, you catch stuff all the time and you never know what you're going to get because there's all sorts of species of fish swimming around in the ocean. And so I took to it. I enjoyed it. I love being outside and on the water. And anyway, it was maybe a year later, so very new fisherwoman, and just lucked into this fish, and it just took all my line. And I thought for sure I had a dolphin or something big that was going out to sea, but it turned out that it was a freakishly large redfish, or the species red drum, but everybody calls them redfish. And it took 45 minutes to get them in, and I didn't even have the right line, like strong enough line to do it. So I had to be really patient, but I had a guide on the boat, holding my shirt so I didn't fall into the water, and talking me through it. And next thing you know, I had a state record.
That's amazing. It's like Hemingway, Old Man in the Sea, kind of battle.
It was quite a fight. And I was at the time, and I think maybe still, the only woman to hold a record in the catch and release logs in Texas. So I was pretty proud of that too.
That's amazing. So not only are you this super amazing entrepreneur, business owner, just crushing it, helping all these engineering companies, create awesome content marketing. Now you also hold this fishing record and can reel in massive redfish. Go figure. That's amazing. That's cool.
You'll have to have a hobby, Nicole, right?
That's so true. So how often do you fish? Is it something that you do pretty regularly?
I try to get away as often as I can. I'm partial to the warmer months of the year here in Texas. But also I have a women's fishing team, and we've been at it for 12 years, and we do about 3 tournaments a year. So that's definitely on the books. And then in between, maybe I get some family fishing time in too.
Amazing. Very cool.
Yeah.
Well, what is something surprising that most people don't know about you besides that you love to fish?
Besides the fishing?
Yeah, besides that.
Well, the only people that know this were either at the Industrial Summit or they went to high school with me. And I think this is always a fun one, but I was the high school mascot.
You
So
were?
I was
Oh
a
my
big fuzzy
goodness.
tiger. Yeah.
That's amazing. Oh my gosh, I got to see a picture of that.
You know what? It sounds amazing. And I thought it would be amazing. And it was a unique experience. But we at the time had a wonderful sports team, not only football, but every sport. We were at the top of the size for the class of championships. This was like 4A at the time or whatever. It's a Texas thing. But anyway, the result was I was in this mascot so much. So through state football playoffs, we won the championship. Then it was, basketball playoffs and volleyball playoffs. And finally I started trading with the cheerleaders. I'm like, I'm sweaty and hot and over this, but it was fun.
How do you get the job as the mascot? That's interesting. Did you have to actually audition to be the mascot?
Oh, yes. There were serious tryouts. And what
Wow.
cinched what cinched it for me, I was against two other people, was at the time, do you remember the Energizer Bunny? And
Yeah.
there were these commercials where it would interrupt things and like come in. So it was a fake commercial. Well, I had a friend, bless her heart, dress up like a bunny and borrow one of those drums from the high school like band dude. And she interrupted my routine and came in and did that. And then I chased her off. And I think it was so unexpected. It was just a slam dunk. So.
Super clever, super creative.
Thank you.
You were already a marketer at 17 years.
Exactly.
I love it. That's amazing. Very cool. Let's shift gears a little bit. Let's talk about, you've been a business owner now for 15 years. This is your 15-year anniversary.
Yeah.
When did you first know you wanted to own a business? Is it something that you wanted from the time you were really young, or did it just kind of come to you organically? Like, what led you to wake up one day and say, you know what, I want to start TREW Marketing. This is my future.
I'm the opposite of you, Nicole, when it comes to this. I had no aspirations to own my own business, wasn't even on my radar. However, so I worked at a large technology company called National Instruments, and a colleague of mine, Rebecca Geyer, and I were close friends, and we would go on often jogging at lunch or have happy hour and just talk about our careers and what we wanted. And so we had some things percolating there, some conversations. And then separately, I fell in love. And the person that is now my husband lived in, at this time, this tiny town outside of Austin and about an hour's commute from National Instruments. And we really wanted to raise our family in this smaller environment, get out of the city.
Yeah.
And so I went to, my leadership and pitched the idea of working from home, either every day of the week or some days of the week. This is so fun looking back at this conversation, by the way. And I was told, no, we're not, that's not okay. You need to be here every day. And at this company at the time, it meant 7 a.m. to 6 p.m. They were long hours. In a leadership role. And they said, but we'll promote you and we see bright things for you. And I thought, no, that's not a good option for me. I want to go door number 3 here. And Rebecca was ready to make a change. And so anyway, these talks kept percolating. And then separately, we noticed that the partners of National Instruments, so these are system integration companies, taking NI products and delivering them into manufacturing. And they hadn't a clue on how to do good marketing. They had horrific websites, were spamming people if they were doing emails at all. I mean, it was just so clear that they needed help. And so it was out of inspiration to help them and some personal motivation to work remotely and start my family life out in the country that led me at least to starting TREW Marketing with Rebecca.
Wow, that's amazing. So probably, do you think you would have taken the leap if you didn't have Rebecca?
I do, because there was a moment where she said, oh, I don't think I can do this. And I said, okay, I'm doing it. I mean, like, I'm in either way. I really, really, really want you to do this with me, but either way. And then she came around. And so that was a good litmus test. Now, would it have taken me longer to leave and do this? I think so. I think the safety and camaraderie and the share of risk with a partner was a huge help to us both.
I bet. What were those first years like for you? Tell me.
Yeah. So we did something interesting. So our very first client was from the United Way. And I know that sounds odd for a company that focuses on engineering, but it was through Rebecca's network.
That's amazing.
It was through Rebecca's network. And so what we decided to do was to have me continue working at National Instruments and moonlight as the operations person in the closet behind the scenes. She took a leave of absence and took this first client. And then after that, one or two more, and I handed her half my paycheck. And that's how we funded year one at TREW Marketing. And then finally, we had enough business to where I too could leave. And so, we had already had some practice at roles and division of responsibilities by just sheer necessity of, hey, Wendy, you're going to fund this through this, keeping your day job. So that's how it started.
My gosh, like to be able to take on the risk that you did, and to deal with the uncertainty, I think is so cool. I love that.
I have to give a little bit of credit here to both of our husbands, though. And I would say this was another hedge, was we both had husbands with great jobs and were fully on board with us, taking this leap, not making income for several years. And they were able to support us and make this into a self-funded venture. And that made it a little easier to do as well.
I've same experience. I don't think I could have started this business without my husband. Not only the fact that he works for Microsoft, he's got the nice stable job, no desire to ever go off on his own, just super supportive of everything that I'm doing and just total cheerleader. Right. But you're absolutely right. I don't think I could do this if I didn't have that kind of stability there on that side of things. So that's really a blessing. I think that's nice. Girl power. Very cool. So tell me a little bit about one of your biggest blunders. I'm sure there are many. I have them every day.
Wendy, don't we all? Absolutely.
I feel like it's but I would love to let's take a trip down memory lane and let's open up the storybook of Wendy.
The many chapters of Wendy.
Yeah, the many chapters of Wendy. Fishing, pickleball.
The biggest thing that was absolutely transformative for our business, there's one story and it's very clear. And it goes back to that United Way thing. You're like, wait, TREW Marketing, United Way? Yeah. And exactly. So early on, so we started in 2008. So in 2009, if you go back in the history annuals, you'll recall was the start of the Great Recession when we had the real estate, stuff, all the loans fall through the floor and all of that stuff happened. And it was a pretty major economic catastrophe. And so here we are, fledgling business, think things are going well, have a really eclectic mix of clients. And then we have the headwinds of this economic, stuff happening in the world that affected everyone. It affected nonprofits, it affected, technology, you name it, everybody was touched by this. And so we had to get really smart about our growth and where we were headed. And so we asked ourselves, who are our next 5 clients going to be? Who are we best served, the best experienced at marketing for? Who can we best serve? And most of our careers, in fact, all of our careers really had been spent marketing to engineers and technical audiences. That's what we knew. We knew the trade shows, we knew the publications, and having the ability to first be at a large corporation we touch so many industries. And so we had this knowledge of, I can talk wastewater, I can talk automotive test, I can talk manufacturing process automation, just from those 12 years at NI. And so it became clear that we needed to narrow our focus. And so we did that. We declared it. It was really scary to say, we're going to say no to Dell Children's Hospital. And, this teacher wanting to start an educational system that has lots of money, and grants. And we're going to say no to all that and be true to our niche. We're going to rebrand, not the name of the company, but certainly what we stand for. And it was because of that decision and that bravery, that led to that award that you talked about, the Wall Street Journal Entrepreneurship Award. And it was simple. It was just saying no to grow. And that was it.
And I think every business owner has to go through that period. Like when you first start a business, you just want to take whatever business that you can get, right? Like,
absolutely.
I remember I'm like, whatever, I'll take on any client I can, but I feel like there is this natural progression once you start to grow that you really do have to make that very conscious decision. And it is a very pivotal point where it's painful to say no to those, it's so painful, but
it's
look at
so
what
painful. I mean, like, I just, sorry.
So you're saying that never changes. It's still,
don't do that.
Yeah.
But we are technology, but for dog food, and it's, no. Yeah. Anyway. Yeah. Not to get into. Yeah.
So once you made that decision,
yeah,
like, was it, how long until it felt like, the confirmation that you had made the right choice?
I mean, the numbers, and I can't quote exactly what the growth was, but it was so obvious. So obvious right away. Yeah. And we, it built more momentum. Like, there were people in our ecosystem that had always been there, but once we declared this, they started sending us leads, and helping us to tap different groups of people that needed our help outside of just this NI ecosystem that we, started with. So that was pretty cool too.
Well, I think as a business owner too, like, there's just so many decisions that you have to make. And, like, if you're trying to serve and learn and try to understand all these different types of businesses and different industries, and it's just like, it's the mental capacity that you need to do that. Whereas if you really can just niche down on one and just get better and better and better, you're going to get so much more momentum, and you're going to learn so much more quickly. So I think that's really great advice for anybody out there. But it's almost like you do kind of have to go through that period of figuring out who you are and who you're serving first before you can make that pivot. How many times have you had to pivot in your business?
Several times, many times. So a lot of services pivoting. So back when we were working with the system integration companies of a certain size, we were like, we're your outsourced marketing department. We do everything. And then it was very difficult to staff all of the different functions of marketing, right? So I mentioned trade shows earlier, like having the trade show person and having a PR person that has relationships with all of the publications, having people who can write really technical content, and so on and so forth. So Google ad certified person, search expert, the list goes on and on. And so as a growing agency with we couldn't afford to staff all of those positions. Yeah. So some was out of necessity, and then some was out of, what do we actually enjoy doing? Like every new hire would be like, and you're going to be Google AdWords certified. And they'd be like, no, I don't want to do that. We're like, oh, we got to find someone. So there are certain services that I think we gravitated towards, and things that we felt we were uniquely qualified for, that our target audience needed most. Whereas other things felt a little more transactional. Like, we're never going to have a programmer on staff. There's wonderful, talented programmers we can bring in, but let's not staff that. But we had to figure that out, a lot of starts and stops on that.
Yeah, a lot of soul searching. It's like that hedgehog concept from Jim Collins' Good to Great. The Venn, I think of it as like this Venn diagram. Like, what is it that you absolutely love to do? Overlapping with what is it that the market needs versus what are you really the best at, right? And it sounds like you guys got just really clear about that and just went for it.
We did. Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, cool. I think like owning a business, I think requires so much, just a tremendous amount of mental stamina and strength. So I'm super curious, like, what do you do? How do you manage that? Because like, I feel like as a business owner, I'm constantly being challenged and I love being challenged. Don't get me wrong. Like, that's why I started, there were 4 reasons why I started a business. One was I wanted to use my God-given talents to help other people. The second one was that I wanted to have the financial freedom and independence. And the third one was I wanted to be challenged and, always feel like I'm doing harder things, but like, it's hard. So every day is hard. I feel like, and I'm like, I just want to get stronger. So I would love to hear from you who's been doing this for 15 years. Like, what do you do to manage, like, what do you do to just that mental fitness of just that mindset of how do you, make sure your mindset, your headspace is in the right place? What do you do to manage that? What are your tips and hacks?
Yeah. Okay. Big question. Well, first off, marketing keeps changing. Like if I look back to 15 years ago, holy cow, like we didn't even have a HubSpot 15 years ago. Right. So, and then now, when you have AI, generative AI for content development. So a lot changes with marketing. And so one, I had to give myself some grace that you can't be the expert at everything. And you can know a little bit about a lot of things and go deep on some, but you need to surround yourself by people that are watching different balls. And, you'll make yourself crazy if you try to be the expert at everything. It's just not possible. It's not possible. So I take a very collaborative approach to my business. I want people to feel ownership and accountability of things. I'm pretty hands-off in my management approach. I'm more of a coach and less of a dictator, if you will. And so that I feel has served me well because I can go and be like, okay, what is this GA4 thing? Like someone needs to get up to speed. Oh, you already know. Great. Can you explain it to me, or let's record it on the podcast, whatever. So, having collaboration partners, and that doesn't have to be in my team. Paul Reitzer is someone I've known for years and years, and he's now, the founder of the Marketing AI Institute. And so looking to others and just hearing what they have to say on things helps. That's a big hack. Listening to these podcasts of different people while you're exercising and feeling stimulated. Boy, that's a big hack to me too, is using that time and being creative.
Yeah, I love what you said about just really trusting your team. I think that's so huge, and just being really intentional about like letting them have ownership, because that's clear. That's how you've been able to grow your business, and everyone rises when you do that. And it helps you too, because it's a big burden if you have to be responsible for all of that.
Yes, exactly. And it's not scalable and it's not smart. And anytime I'm in a sales engagement with a prospective new client and they say, oh no, well, you wrote this book, Content Marketing Engineer, so we want you on the account. I'm like, no, you don't. You want my marketing strategist that has been doing this, that is in the trenches, knows what's working. Like, no, so that was a pretty freeing thing when I got to that point where I could recognize, I needed to step back in order to have everybody grow.
So true. Freeing, and also so humble, such humility, right? To like recognize and accept, like, I really can't be everything to everyone and do everything. And that's okay. That's awesome. Love that. Man, you're such an inspiration, Wendy.
Oh, stop.
Man, so cool.
Thank you. I want to mention another hack, or something that's really important, is just taking time away, and so I do that in 2 ways. So one is we instituted no meeting Fridays. So we're not at the 4-day work week necessarily, but we're trying to avoid meetings. And we're a virtual workplace. We always have been for 15 years, but what we do is require that 70% of time be during normal working hours, but that other 30%, take it when you want to take it when you need to take it. So if you want to do 4-day work weeks, do that. Or if you want to do no meeting Fridays and make that your okay, let me screw my head back on. What just happened this week? I feel whiplashed, like let me do some deep dive writing, or, whether you're a heavy thinker or by Friday you're toast, plan your week accordingly. So doing that, and then also just taking time to go fishing at the coast, or, doing whatever it is that going into exercise, whatever grounds you and brings you back to center is really important.
I love that. I've been trying no meeting Fridays too.
Yeah.
Yes. And I got to tell you, it works for a while, but every once in a while there's a meeting that creeps in there. But the days when I have no meetings, it's so great.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I love that you give your team the flexibility. It's so amazing. Like you were saying that your company before you started wouldn't let you work remotely. And even then I was blessed to work for a company that from the time I started working there in 2005, they said, we'll let you work from home 1 day a week. So I feel like most of my career, I've been like lucky enough to be in a situation where the employer was progressive enough to see that. So I think it's awesome that you've created that kind of environment for your team. And I think it's going to become even more important in the years ahead. So
I know everyone caught up with us, Nicole. I don't know what to think about that, because it used to be a huge recruiting advantage for TREW Marketing, because we figured it out, right? We're mostly women, and there's an extra burden on women. We just talked about hair, earlier.
yes.
We're hopping on this recording
and all that stuff.
Yeah. And then let's face it, childcare often falls more on women. And so there's that too. And then, when you work virtually, you can be there when they get off the school bus every day. And that is a benefit that you can't put dollars on. So, yeah.
That's so true. Tell me about your kids, Wendy. How many kids do you have?
Well, you can't call them kids anymore. So I have a 22-year-old son named Grayson and a 19-year-old daughter named Lauren. And so they're out. I'm an empty nester. I started early.
I bet when you go out with them, they probably think that people probably think you're their sister. I would
thank you. Maybe, young aunt. Yeah, I'll go with that. Maybe not quite sister, but yeah, I do get some surprise looks for sure. And I'm okay with that. I'll hang on to that as long as I can.
Yeah, that's amazing. Well, it makes me think like, you were really progressive on the remote work front, but as an employer, what do you feel like is kind of like looking forward the next 5-10 years? What kind of benefits do you feel are going to be really important for employers to be offering to employees to kind of improve that retention and help them feel, create that great brand culture? Like, what are you investing in that regard?
Gosh, it's such a good question. And I'd love to say I have this all sorted out, but, high level trends as I look to younger generations, they're valuing time over money, like big time. And so just like we talked about the 4-day work week, things oriented around time and experiences are valued more than just throwing more money at it. And as an experiment on this, a few years ago, I said, okay, guys, like if you want to work overtime, like if you want to do, extra 50 hours or 60, like we'll pay extra for that. No one wanted to do that. Okay, guys, if you want to do like sales on the side, and refer people, I'll pay extra for that. Yeah, no one wanted to do that. So it was like, okay, I hear you loud and clear. So instead we invest in an annual team retreat. In fact, we just came back from ours. It was 2 weeks ago in Fort Lauderdale, and we rented a giant house on the Intercoastal, which is the waterway there. And everybody just loved it. I mean, I can't even tell you, what the feedback was. It was so positive. And so it's like, okay, that's time and experiences. It's not about money. Yes, it costs money to do that, but the experience was so, much more than giving a company performance bonus or something like that.
Yeah. Oh, I love that so much. Yep. I'm dreaming of doing our first retreat. That day will come soon. I have it in my mind and I'm like, oh, I can't wait and I think coming out of COVID, I think maybe people are realizing just how much they really need that like time together in person, people you work with, family, whatever the case may be. I think that maybe was almost like what's the word I want to say? a turning point maybe, or like
Absolutely. It's like a soul searching moment in time. Like, yeah, I'll never forget going to the first in-person conference after COVID. And I don't think anybody in that room will forget that conference because it was first. And just the feeling in the room, it was really interesting. It was charged in a good way. Like, it was emotional. And this was an engineering conference. It was an electronics engineering conference, but it was an emotional time for everyone.
Yeah, it's almost like, it's just like people have this new appreciation for connection that maybe wasn't as felt as much before, but going through that, people just really, it forced them to really realize how important it is that we are connected and to find those ways to connect. Yeah. Oh, that's so cool. I love that you're doing that. So cool. Yeah, man, you would be a fun team to work on. Work with, I'm sure. That's so cool. I'm sure that your employees just absolutely love working with you. That's so great.
It was a good time.
Cool. Well, okay. So I want to shift gears a little bit and talk marketing. You and I are both marketers.
Let's do it.
Love. Let's do it. So I am just dying to hear what your perspective is on this ChatGPT. I know everybody's talking about this, but I am just really curious about your thoughts on this as a content marketer. Like, the way that the ChatGPT, was built, there's not really a mechanism in place, if you will, for it to be verify anything that's true or not, right? It's just basically creating content from whatever's already out there. And it doesn't have the self-awareness to say, oh, this is true and this is not. And then, which leads to a larger question of like, who determines what's true or not, even if they were to create that, right? Yeah. So I guess my question to you is like, as businesses are thinking about how to build trust with their customers, which is really, content marketing is all about building that trust. How do you see this playing out in the next 5-10 years with, the increased use of this ChatGPT and AI and like the erosion of truth and trust? And, what's your take on all of that? That's a big question. I know.
It's okay. It's a timely question. And we at TREW Marketing have been spending a lot of time on this too. And it's timely that you asked because we just wrapped up a research project where we piloted writing technical content on ChatGPT, Jasper, and Writer. And we played around. I don't know if you've heard Canva has Magic Write, which is their generative AI tool as well. So we're fresh off of this pilot. It was really cool. I'll send you. We created a guidebook that walked through the whole pilot and what we learned. But basically, I'll tell you maybe some benefits and drawbacks and what we found. So the issues, obviously you brought up the factual thing. And on top of that, ChatGPT in particular said they stop with data sets after 2021. So imagine. But my God. Anyway, yeah. So what we did is we tried a case study, a series of blog posts on a similar topic. And I think there were some shorter form things too. And what we found was, first, they were writing things in an average 6th grade level. So imagine if your target audience is an engineer or any B2B professional should be writing at 6th grade. There was a lot of repetition. So it might say a dynamometer is good for this. A dynamometer is also good for this. Sometimes it would lose itself and repeat things in weird places. So that happened. But even let's say it got the facts right, which is doubtful, but let's say it did, because this is going to get better. The whole fact thing, perhaps it'll get better. There's something lost with your brand and your tone and reinforcing your messages. So in the quest for giving you original content, ChatGPT or Writer or Jasper or whoever is ignoring your company's messaging. Yeah. Because they're purposely not trying to overlap with it to be original. But you're missing this opportunity to sound like your company, right? So it's not necessarily helping you. And in fact, in some cases, it's defining a technical term in a very arduous way to try to not use the industry standard term. There's only so many, back to dynamometer, for example, there's a dynamometer is a dynamometer. It's not a tool that does this for this and this. It's a dynamometer. It's a noun, so we saw some of that. And anyway, there a lot of redlining, it didn't save us time, but it did do some things. So it wasn't all bad. It served as a good brainstorming buddy. Yep. So think like the blank page syndrome, like I need to write a white paper or a case study or whatever on this topic. What are some things I could say? And they'll spit back some things and you could cull through those. You could brainstorm with this on headlines. Like, here's my case study. It's done. What are some good headlines for this? Or what are some good social posts? So we see it for now as better for brainstorming. And then, there's this other set of tools that is also AI driven, but they're more SEO oriented, like Market Muse. And those are great too. They're brainstorming buddies on here are keywords you should insert into your piece.
I haven't heard of Market Muse. I'm curious about this now. Oh, okay.
So Market Muse is really cool, but really expensive. So right now their business model doesn't really work unless you're an enterprise company, unfortunately, but you should check them out just to see what it has. And maybe in the future, they'll have a lighter version for smaller companies. But think of it as like your content strategy companion to help you with topic clustering and keyword analysis and things like that. And there's some overlap with what HubSpot does in that sense too. But Market Muse goes deeper. There's SEM Rush. That tool goes way deep on the SEO side, but it doesn't generate content. So you mentioned the Venn diagram. It's kind of like you have generative, we're going to write for you, and then we're going to help you do content better. And there's some overlap in those two.
That's such a great analysis. I hadn't even thought about like brand tone and voice, because as you say that, it makes so much sense, because the whole purpose of the bot is to just conglomerate or aggregate whatever else is out there. So do you want your brand to be this aggregate of whatever, just like, as brands, I think it's the opportunity for brands is to really position themselves uniquely. And you're never going to get that.
If you lose your point of view, lose, even like I said, the SEO implications. Yeah, it's just not authentic. So it's a shortcut. And I see why it's really tempting for small business owners to let me just write blog posts. And on the surface, they look good. But when you think about these things, they're really not authentic. And eventually, this is a theory, but I've heard this several times now, eventually Google is going to catch up with this and have their ways of detecting that this is AI created. And I have a feeling punishment is coming because it's Google after all.
I mean, Google owns Google, like nothing can take down Google.
Right. And they're scrambling on this, no doubt, because people are going to ChatGPT for their quick answers instead of Google now, just for the novelty of it.
Oh yeah.
So there's going to be a reckoning, Nicole.
I think you're reckoning. I totally agree with your assessment that like ChatGPT and these should be used for research. Think about them as like the research, the starting point, right? But like for the actual content creation, especially if you're dealing like you are with like really technical buyers, really niche products, like there's just no way that anything can replace that SME, that subject matter expert who has deep expertise. But for research, it's great to see what's out there. Okay, well, what is already out there on the specific topic? Start from there, and then you can figure out what you want your unique perspective to be on that specific topic.
Exactly. Yeah. My team did uncover one use case for ChatGPT that is interesting, and it's the idea of a glossary page. So if you wanted a page on your website that's just factual, like what is RF, or what is a laser? How can blah, blah, blah type of laser be used for blah? So things that aren't point of view, things that don't need to be branded, that are just stating facts, you can generate that very quickly. So that's a great, I like that use case. That made sense. But for everything else, say you wanted to create derivative content from a white paper and then derivative to social posts or 3 blog posts or whatever. The other tools, Jasper and Writer, are much better at doing that. And they're best at the really short lifts like headlines and social posts. They're
Okay.
still not there on the white paper to blog post kind of scenario, but
Yeah.
our hope is that they'll get there, and we think they will. So other things to keep in mind, because that for us and for you would save a lot of time, right?
Oh yeah. Like
Yeah.
absolutely being able to create blog posts from like webinar transcripts and, meeting minutes and all of those like kind of more admin-y type of things.
Right. So I
Is where
think
the
that's
opportunity
coming,
is.
but it started with your original content. And I think your point that to your point,
Yes.
that's exactly. So let's keep that tight.
That needs to still be tight. And I think there's the opportunity then is like for business owners to be thinking about like doing more events like this, doing more webinars, podcasts, where you're actually engaging in conversation, where the ideas and the thought leadership is like in that moment. You can't replicate that. A bot can never replicate what you learn, you and I together having a conversation,
No way. Good luck, bot.
Good luck, synthetic intelligence. I heard that on a podcast the other day that we shouldn't be thinking about it as a bot. It's really synthetic intelligence. And when
Oh
you think
boy.
about it that
Okay.
way, I'm like, oh, all right.
Awesome.
So anyway, well, that's
What
so
is
cool.
it? Will you leave your husband for me? Synthetic intelligence robot asks or whatever.
Like, I don't know if you've ever seen that movie, Her, but it's very,
Yes. I keep thinking of that lately. Yes. I think
it's
we
so
all.
creepy.
Ooh.
It's so creepy.
Yeah.
Oh, anyway, like we could, we can move on from ChatGPT. We'll move on from that for now.
Okay. What else do you have for me?
Okay. Yeah. So I would also love to hear just about like how are you marketing your business now, knowing what you know, like what has worked for TREW Marketing? Like, how have you like what's worked for you and what hasn't worked and what do you do now to market your business?
Yeah, great question. So, what we did at the beginning that has worked throughout time is speaking engagements. So getting in front of other people's communities, whether that be virtually or in person, hands down has always worked, will continue to work because one, it's somebody else's community, but you're given the forum to kind of, speak and improve out that you know something on a subject.
Yes.
And so there's something special about that. And when you can be there in person, that's great. So that first and foremost, and then the content marketing playbook and inbound marketing. So the idea of publishing content on a consistent basis and attracting people to your website, building trust, nurturing them. It's the typical playbook for inbound. Has absolutely worked for us to the degree that I haven't had to do a cold sales outreach type of thing in probably 6 years. So, part of that is branding as well, but I put most of it on content marketing. I believe in it. It works.
Yep.
I will say when Google changed their algorithm last year, we were horrifically punished. And ironically, it was because of also content marketing. So we had been blogging twice a week for over a decade. And over time, we'll blog on similar subjects, but it'll be a new author or whatever. And they were similar enough that we were punished for that. It was hard, in other words, to read through and see what are you really about and what are you not about. Some of our topics are very general, some are very niche-y. So when they changed their algorithm, I think that strategy actually hurt us. And we had to get rid of a lot of content, which sounds really counterintuitive to the me of 3 years ago looking at content marketing.
Right. Yeah, no, that's so interesting. I was just reading something about that specifically, that Google is rewarding now maybe not less content, but more in-depth pieces of
That's
content.
right.
Rather
Engagement.
than having
Yeah.
a lot of like pieces of content on the same topic that maybe slightly, like you just said. So I think that's interesting, but maybe a little less overwhelming for someone just getting started, with it, because it's not like, oh my gosh, I've got to create this pillar piece and then create like 12 sub articles all around the same thing. So I think that's all shifting. I mean, I'm curious your perspective on that whole like topical cluster, like how's that shifting? How are you addressing that now?
The pillar pages, those long scrolling pages work incredibly well, and long blogs get great engagement too. Old blogs, when someone gets there and realizes it's old is a means to balance, or if it's too short. So that's, the punishment of the old stuff. So that's big.
Optimization is key, making sure you're updating what you've got on a regular basis. That's a good tip.
Another thing that we had, and this cracks me up, but we leaned into video a couple years, and we had videos on our website, and they were hosted through YouTube. And then I think we had them embedded, and I don't remember exactly what it was, but I know that YouTube was involved somehow. I guess we were pulling them in from YouTube, and the load time was just slow enough that Google was punishing us, even though YouTube is their engine. Yeah. So there were some technical aspects that you need to know. So, not to get all weedy on everything SEO, but that's been our biggest learning thing of the past couple of years is SEO rapidly changes, and Google has this power to change their algorithm and completely reshuffle how businesses grow or don't grow that are relying upon search. And it was a very big lesson for me as a small business owner, of just staying on top of that and acting quickly.
Yeah. And maybe even trying to make sure that you don't have all your eggs in one basket, if you will, right?
Yeah.
Focus all in on SEO, but trying to make sure you have, different ways to bring in new business.
Yeah. And I will say, inbound was working so well for us. I had a lot of eggs in that SEO basket. And that was where are all my leads? What just happened? Where are the visits? So yeah, it's okay. I'm almost over it. I'm still a little angry at Google, but don't tell them.
I know. My goodness. Man, you're so insightful, Wendy. I could just talk to you all day.
Well, you need to credit my team that uncovered a lot of that. I'm just soaking it in and, making business decisions based on, things it's important to measure, right? Imagine if we weren't measuring that. Imagine these businesses that have a website and have no idea that their website traffic just tanked. And all of a sudden they're not getting forms and they don't know why. No one's filling out their contact us form or whatever, It
is so true.
Yeah.
That's why marketing is so important. It's so important. Everyone who's listening, you need to measure. You need to be able to know what's going on.
Absolutely.
Well, Wendy, this has been such an honor having you on the show. I've learned so much from you. I can't thank you enough for coming on and sharing all about your business experience and your marketing acumen and everything. It's amazing. So my last and final question is more of a fun one. And that is, and I feel like I may already be able to guess what this is, but if you could do anything, be anywhere, go anywhere, be with anyone, what would be your dream day? What would be the dream Wendy Covey? This is what would you be doing?
Okay. I want to hear your guess.
Fishing.
Definitely. Well, I will expand upon that. It definitely involves fishing, but our happy place is Costa Rica, and which is a very quick trip from Texas, from Austin.
Yeah.
And so we love to go and not only fish, but ride four-wheelers and play on the beach. And so if I am doing that with my family and friends, that is the absolute perfect day.
Oh, that sounds amazing. So when are you going to Costa Rica next? We don't
have it on the calendar yet, but we have active discussions because a friend of ours now has a new business down there, chartering fishing trips. And he's been in our ear about availability and get on down here. So.
Oh man, sounds like you need to make it happen, Wendy.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's awesome. Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. And where can our guests reach you if they want to get in touch with you? How can they find you?
Sure. So on LinkedIn, just my name, Wendy Covey, and then separately TREW Marketing, it's TREW marketing.com. And when you go there, that guidebook about this ChatGPT and all of that is up there. And I just did a podcast about it too. So the podcast is Content Marketing Engineered, and you can find that on your whatever your favorite listening platform is. So go check it out. In fact, you'll hear Nicole on it coming up shortly. So that'll be exciting.
Yes. Thank you so much, Wendy. We'll talk to you soon.
Thank you for having me.
Tales of Misadventure is produced, edited, and moderated by Julie Basello with Basello Media. Music by Marcus Way. Special thanks to our amazing guests and the entire DMG Digital team. Visit us at dmgdigital.io to get access to all our podcast interviews and other helpful resources. And if you'd like to get updates on the latest and greatest, please sign up for our email newsletter. We'll see you next time for another episode of Tales of Misadventure. Until then, keep falling forward.